Hey everyone, welcome to Group Text. My guest today is Josh Radnor, who played the character of Ted Mosby for 9 seasons in the hit CBS sitcom How I Met Your Mother. But that's not all. No, why would anyone just be a single, non-hyphenate person? Josh is also a writer, a director, a producer, a singer-songwriter, and an accomplished stage actor. I gotta say, not bad for a kid from Columbus, Ohio. He's got 2 films coming out, 3 birthdays, and all happy families, and can be seen in the new FX, which looks fantastic, miniseries, Fleishman is in Trouble, alongside, ready for this, Jesse Eisenberg, Claire Danes, and so many others, which start streaming, I can't wait, for November 17th on Hulu. Please welcome Josh Radnor. Hey, Josh.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm good.
Okay, we're going to get to Fleishman is in Trouble in a minute, which looks kind of like what happens to the characters from How I Met Your Mother when they get older and hire divorce attorneys.
And all convert to Judaism.
And all convert to Judaism, which is just a whole other twist. Just that cracks me up. So first off, and I'm actually interested in this, you were raised in Columbus, Ohio. My son had been recruited to go play lacrosse at Ohio Wesleyan and spent 2 years there before transferring to Berkeley. So I know nobody cares. Delaware, Ohio.
Sure. Yeah. The Ohio Wesleyan was in, I went to Kenyon College, so the same athletic conference.
Yes. Kenyon was one of our big rivals. And I got to tell you, Kenyon College is beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful campuses in the world, truly. Yeah, I shot a movie there called Liberal Arts that I wrote and directed a couple years, about 10 years ago. But I mean, it's anywhere you pointed the camera was just extraordinary.
By the way, we're the only 2 people on this call or podcast that even moderately care about this. And by the way, Columbus has a great airport.
It's not bad. I mean, when you're used to LAX or JFK, it's a great one.
It sure is. Now, after Kenyon, you took off to NYU for graduate degree in drama. How did your family take that? I mean, Columbus to New York, they were like, go with God, good luck. It's a big change.
I don't think it was quite that. I mean, my dad did not want me to study acting undergrad. He wanted me to get a liberal arts degree. And
Shocking. A Jewish parent.
Yeah. Yes,
the fact that you already weren't going to be a doctor or a lawyer, your mother probably
was already in shock. And he was a lawyer. But by the time, he said, but, if you still want to study it in grad school, we can talk about that. And then I got into NYU, which was very hard to get into. And I think he started to have more faith in my professional prospects. And I took it very seriously. I wasn't frivolous about it. I was really on a path, and I showed him I was serious about it. And so by that point, he was supportive. And by now, he's very supportive. So,
well, of course, because you're making a living.
Yeah. I've done it for quite a while,
Yeah. So what's crazy to me is you graduated from NYU in 1999, and by 2002, you are starring on Broadway in The Graduate, and you played Benjamin to Kathleen Turner's Mrs. Robinson. I mean, were you prepared for things to happen that fast?
Well, it's weird because it doesn't feel, a year feels like a long time. So it was 3 years after I got out of school. But I mean, relatively speaking, it did happen pretty fast. But when I was training to be an actor, I wanted to be a stage actor. Being on Broadway was the goal. Walking up and seeing my picture between a huge picture of Kathleen and Alicia Silverstone. I mean, it was really a trip, walking out after shows and signing autographs for the first time. I used to joke that I was famous on a half block of 45th Street for like 15 minutes every day. And then I'd round the corner and go to the subway and no one knew me anymore. But, it was an amazing introduction to a different level of something. And it was great. Yeah.
It had to be intimidating getting on stage with of course with Alicia, but with Kathleen Turner, who is such a presence. And if I remember correctly, she was naked in the show too, correct?
I seem to remember that. Yes, I believe she was. It's almost like coming out of high school into the NBA or something. Like you might be intimidated, but you just got to like put your game face on and give it your best. Like I didn't let them see me sweat. You know what I mean? I do remember I only had about 2 weeks of rehearsal before I got put in. And I remember sitting behind stage, I was in like a full scuba gear before at the start of the show. And the thing was the thing was about to come up and there'd be 1,000 people there.
It's also called a curtain. I mean,
no, it wasn't a curtain. It was like a wall that went up, I do know the term, but it was like a wall that went up. And I just remember thinking, it felt like I was getting pushed out of an airplane, I mean, it was wild, but it ended up being great.
I mean, that's just, to me, that's crazy. What I also found fascinating when I was doing the research, you also worked with Neil Patrick Harris before How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, like a month before we got cast on How I Met Your Mother, we did this Robbie Bass play out in LA. We played lovers in this play. I mean, it was very different than what we ended up doing on How I Met Your Mother. But it was, I mean, it was weird to have done this very intense theater experience with him, and then next thing you know, we're in a 9-year run of a show together.
Did you guys both know around the same time that you were going to be cast, or were you cast first? Was Neil cast first?
I got cast first, actually. Yeah,
really.
Kobe and I got cast first, and then I think Neil did, and I think he called me or texted me or something, and it was just like it was wild.
It had to be nice walking into an ensemble, which How I Met Your Mother really was, already having a relationship and an acting relationship with someone. Did you know anyone else when you walked into that first table read?
Well, I knew Kobe and I had auditioned together a couple of times, so by the time we showed up, we felt like old friends. I was a great fan of Allison's and Jason's. I didn't know them, but there was something about like the first table read we did where it was just like, okay, everyone's really well cast. This thing feels, you can't really manufacture chemistry. You either have it or you don't. And I think we just had it.
Do you realize, looking back, how lucky that was? Because a lot of shows try ensembles and it just doesn't work, or someone gets, booted after the pilot and all those different things. Do you stand there here now and say, wow, it's lightning in a bottle?
I realized statistically it was lucky, but it's weird because you metabolize the facts of your life so quickly. And I think we metabolize good fortune rather quickly. Like one moment you don't have health insurance and the next you're on a hit TV show. And it just feels like, okay, I know how this happened. And I've been working at kind of getting to that place for a lot of years. I had gotten very good at getting pilots. What I was not having success at was keeping them on the air. So once it started rolling along, and once we went on Netflix 4th season, it just tipped into this thing where it was like, oh, this is actually becoming, a hit. And it was a wild ride.
I love the fact that you say I was very good at getting pilots, but not keeping them on the air. How many pilots do you think you got that didn't make it?
I think How I Met Your Mother was my 4th or 5th pilot.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had been at it. I think when people don't know you before they see you on something, they think you got discovered at the mall or something. And I had just been, I'd been in a lot of audition rooms, and I'd had a lot of close calls and a lot of, various things happen to me in those pilots. But, it takes a while. People very famously end up doing a lot of pilots before they get the show that really works.
Can you remember off the top of your head one pilot that you did that you feel like the network missed the boat on?
Well, I did 2 that I really believed in. I did this show for ABC called The Court, which was kind of like an attempt. It was a John Wells show. It was an attempt at like a West Wing, but like Supreme Court. And it was with Sally Field and Christina Hendricks and Craig Bierko and Diane Carroll. I mean, it has this amazing cast. We shot 6, they aired 3 and yanked it, but I learned so much in the couple months that I got to shoot those. Sally was so lovely to me. And then I shot a pilot for NBC with Rob Reiner and Mercedes Ruehl about a family of therapists who lived and worked in the same brownstone. And it it was all improvised, and it was it was probably a mess, but it was super fun. Rob directed it, so I had great faith in those, or great hopes, because I was surrounded by such good people. But for whatever reason, they just didn't work, and the next one did.
What's crazy is sitting here listening to you list off the people that you've gotten to work with.
Yeah.
It has to be, I mean, I hope you're taking notes and going to write a book one day, because the people that you're listing,
yeah,
most actors are lucky to get to work with once in their life. And you have this ability to keep getting the chance, especially as a young actor, like before How I Met Your Mother, to have that time on sets with them.
I know. And it's fun because, one, it's very strange and wonderful to work with people that you grew up watching and admiring, and then suddenly you're side by side, you're in the trenches with them. I remember asking Sally some questions about film acting, and she was so lovely. And Cameron Manheim, who's an NYU grad, she came and talked to us, and she said, ask all your dumb questions when you're young. Like everyone will answer your questions when they know you're new, but there's going to come a time where you should know these things, and you shouldn't be asking them anymore. So whenever I was curious about something, or I didn't understand something, I would even ask the DP, like, what are you doing here? And then I was just very curious about the process, especially about film acting, because I felt like I had trained in the theater for so long. I understood how the theater worked. A film set or a TV set was just a different ecosystem, and I really had to learn.
You had to, when you started directing.
Yeah.
How you had to even subconsciously pull on all that, especially when talking to your actors.
Yeah, I did. I felt really comfortable directing the actors because I was working with them as an actor, right? Like actor to actor, I knew how to speak that language. I was less comfortable with pre-production, locations, shot listing. I mean, I had to learn all these things, but I surrounded myself with such good people that I took to it pretty quickly. But there was a very steep learning curve. Some of it I felt really comfortable doing, and others I just it was a Hail Mary. I had to figure it out on the go.
Yeah, and stay on budget. That's always a good time.
Yeah.
Couple more quick questions about How I Met Your Mother. Did the writers and producers ever tell you who it was? Or did they keep it a secret from you guys?
The big kind of twist at the end, they told me that they were considering doing that first season. So I always knew the shape of it, but it wasn't, they didn't, I don't know if they knew kind of who it would be. And they didn't cast Kristen Milioti until I think the 8th season. So there wasn't much to tell,
Because I would think fans would be constantly asking you, who is it? Who is it? Who is it?
They were,
and I always am curious.
I also had a policy where I was, because I had to live the character, not as the older, wiser, character that Bob voiced, but that I had to live him forward and somewhat innocently and ignorantly. So I didn't want to know too much going forward. I wanted to take it week to week. So I didn't hound them for a lot of information,
Oh God, so different than I would have done. But speaking of amazing actors, and a show that I love, which is coming back for a 2nd season, Hunters.
Yeah.
And you recently said in an interview, one of the best pieces of advice Al Pacino gave you.
Yeah.
Which was always be thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he talk about another person that, you almost, it's a real pinch yourself thing that you're even working with him, but he's been really lovely and easy to work with. And I love watching him because he's hungry. Like it's his first day on set. He's so enthusiastic about acting. He's so enthusiastic he has limitless energy to keep trying things, and he's not afraid to fail. I find him quite inspiring to be around. He's like a great golfer who can just shake off a shot that didn't go well and just kill it on the next one,
And I'm fortunate to be friendly with him. And I don't think
you are?
Yeah. And I don't think
great.
people realize how funny he is.
He's so funny, and he's a great storyteller. Like
the best storyteller.
Sometimes we'll get him talking, kind of do our own, inside the actor studio with him, and he just tells these unbelievable stories, and he's got, so many years in the business, and he worked with everyone, and he kind of like connects generations. Like he worked with Brando, and he's now working with, the current generation of people going on. So he's just like a one-stop shop for like the history of acting over the last, half century.
And so warm. Such a warm man.
I know. He's a lovely guy.
What was the first day with him like? Where did you meet him? Because I have like the most embarrassing story of how the first time I met him.
Yeah, I remember the first day. I mean, I had popped onto set, I think, a day earlier and watched him a little bit from the monitor. But then our first day, we when we were all there, all the hunters, we were kind of sitting around. They were turning it around. We were setting up a shot, and Al kind of came in and sat with us, and we were all like, "What do you say to Al Pacino?" Like we didn't know what to say, and for some reason, because the show took place in the summer of 1977 in New York.
And by the way, great costumes.
Oh, the best. Yeah. But I said, Al, where were you in the summer of 77? And he said, oh, I was on Broadway. I was doing a David Ray play called The Basic Training of Pablo Hummel. He goes, I think I won a Tony for that play. I can't remember. You've had a good career when you can't remember if you won a Tony Award or not. But he told us about it being so hot. And he just told us this crazy story about, the girlfriend he was dating, and he left to go to Europe to see her. And then he came back and the show reopened. I mean, he just, it was fun. It was fun to kind of just ask him a very simple question. And then he had this whole, great tale about what that summer was like and how hot it was and how they used to swim at the Holiday Inn pool, in between shows. And so that was the first day. And once that day happened, we all felt a little more comfortable around him,
So my embarrassing story, I can't believe I'm telling this where people can hear it because I very rarely tell it. So I was at a dinner party and there were tons of people there, and this couple said, oh, we need to save a seat for our friend. He's late. And I was like, okay, so we left a seat between me and them. I don't even know how that happened. And I'm talking to the person to my right, like that end of the table. And Dancing with the Stars was brand new. And we were talking about these shows. And I was discussing Dancing with the Stars and this and that and the other. And it was a very fun discussion. And I feel someone sit down next to me, but I'm in the middle of a discussion. And I said, everybody, you're kidding yourself. You're fooling yourself if you think everybody isn't watching these shows. Everybody's watching Dancing with the Stars. And I turned around and said, right, even you're watching Dancing with the Stars, thinking I'm going to include the person next to me. And it's Al Pacino, who without missing a beat goes, yeah, I've been watching it. My friend is on it right now. And I'm like, and he goes, I go, oh, who? He goes, George Hamilton. And I'm like, I feel like my first time I ever talked to Al Pacino, I asked him about Dancing with the Stars.
Well, I would say I don't think that's that embarrassing, because I thought you were going to say Al Pacino would say, I don't watch Dancing with the Stars. But in fact, he was watching it. So your theory was correct. And it was confirmed by Al.
But the funny, literally without missing a beat, thinking, oh, I need to include this person out of my good manners to the left. And I go, even you're watching, right? And you're face to face with Al Pacino.
Yeah.
You're just like, I wanted to crawl under the table.
Yeah. I don't think that's the story is as embarrassing as you think it is, for what it's worth.
Nah, you had to be there. You had to, just for me, it was embarrassing as hell.
Okay. All right.
You don't want that to be your first line to an icon.
Right. Did you move the conversation into more friendly territory after that?
Well, it stayed very friendly, and we actually had an extensive conversation about reality competition TV, and then moved on to talking about his daughter, who ended up becoming a college softball player.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
for the rest of the night, there was a woman kind of stalking him around the room, and he kept
Yeah.
pulling me over to sit next to him so she couldn't.
Yeah. Everyone wants it, yeah.
Everybody wants it. So Fleishman is in trouble. Like we said in the beginning,
Yeah.
it's not exactly How I Met Your Mother. It's a very grown up show. You know, it's
Yeah.
divorce, anxieties, parenting, love, relationships, class. What drew you to the material?
I mean, it's a great book, great network. Taffy, who wrote the novel, was adapting it and running the show. Lizzie Kaplan, who I've known for a lot of years, was playing the character that I was going to play opposite. I play her husband. Claire, Jesse. I mean, all the elements were incredible, and filming in New York is always fun. I mean, there was no, you're always kind of having to do a, pro con on some level. There weren't any cons. It was just like, yeah, this is the kind of project I want to be in.
Tell me a little bit about Adam, who's your character.
Well, he's a lawyer.
I know you could draw. Lawyers. I was going to say you could draw on family experience.
Exactly. He's a bit of it's kind of an interesting flip because he really loves the suburbs. He loves life with his wife and his children in the suburbs, and his wife is kind of going crazy and feeling, asphyxiated by the whole thing. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to play. Like, this is what we wanted. This is what we worked for. And now you're, kind of freaking out. It was like she broke this contract that they had together. And it's an interesting role because it's like, I'm quietly simmering for a lot of it. And you can see these resentments and, he's scorekeeping and all these kind of things they advise you don't do in marriages. And they're all doing them. And then it kind of explodes. I was at the premiere the other night. It's excellent. If you do say so yourself. No, it's really good. I was barely in the premiere. I'm barely in the pilot, so I'm saying that objectively. Yeah. I'm super excited to see it. And like you don't have enough on your plate, you also are a singer-songwriter. You are in a group with Ben Lee in the group. By the way, super imaginative name, Radnor and Lee. Yeah. That had to take a long time to come up with. We had other much worse names, so I think you should be happy that we landed on Radnor and Lee. But we put out 2 records. We're not making new music right now. I'm putting out my own stuff. I have like a double album I recorded in Nashville that'll be out next year. So I just love writing songs. It's a great joy. Of theater, TV, film, music, if you could only, and I hate when people do this to me, but I'm going to do it to you anyway. In order of what you would like to do, I'm not going to ask you which is your favorite or if you could only do one, because I know that's an impossible question. Put them in ranking order of how you like to spend your time. What were the choices? Everything you do. Theater, TV, feature, and that includes directing, music. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is so annoying, but it's like, whatever one I'm not doing, I want to do. So if I do a hardcore drama, I want to do some comedy. If I'm doing too much acting, I want to write and direct a film. I always want to be writing songs and singing songs. So, I mean, happily, no one except you is making me choose. So I'm just going to keep doing all of them. But day to day, I probably right now I'm just doing the most music because it's I mean, the most frustrating thing about being an actor is you have to wait until they call you off the bench. You can't just say, right, I'm going to act today. You need to be a part of something. So I leaned into writing and now I lean into songwriting because I like to be creative every day. I like to wake up and have a feeling of purpose and that I can do something. And I can always write a song. I can always write a movie or a play. And I do all those things because it gives me a little more agency in my life. Well, I always hate when people say, would you rather be writing, hosting, producing? And I always say exactly the same answer, which is whichever one I'm not doing, I want to be doing the other. Yeah. And I also get a little bored with too much of the same thing. So I like having a life that's full of variety creatively, And as you said, you can always lean in and write something or write a song, just like I can always lean in and annoy my son. Yeah, all of it.
All of it. So just this week, Page Six ran a blurb that you actually have admitted to, or acknowledged, not admitted, that you have a girlfriend right now and that you met during filming.
Not quite, but let me just clarify. When you're on the red carpet, you're doing all these interviews. I mean, the question was, what did the marriages and divorces of Fleishman make you more scared and cynical about marriage and relationships? And I said, no, I'm in a happy relationship. So that's all that was. They turned it into a story, but I don't think there's much story.
Well, you're in a relationship.
I am, and happily,
So, does your Jewish mother think you're good? She's good enough for her only son?
Yeah, they're very pleased with
now.
Better, yeah.
Are you going to really make her happy and get married?
I can't. You think that I'm going to tell you that first?
Why not?
Lovely. We just met a half hour ago.
That's why I'm the perfect person to tell. We don't know anybody in common.
Right. And it's a very private conversation we're having. It will be just between us, right?
Duh. So, so what is next? What you got teed up for us besides Fleishman is in trouble, and hopefully soon, since I'm a huge fan of season 2 of Hunters?
Yeah, Hunters will be out in January, I think, beginning of next year. I shot these 2 movies that I really love that hopefully those will be out soon, and just going to figure out how to release all this music that I made in Nashville. I'm super excited about it.
Josh, it has been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you too. Thanks for having me.